This podcast may contain certain forward-looking statements concerning Tri-State's plans, performance, and strategies. Actual results may differ materially because of numerous factors, and Tri-State undertakes no obligation to update these forward-looking statements. We urge you to review Tri-State's filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission for a discussion of these factors.
I think to keep communities in rural America viable, community participation is essential. You have to be on the chamber board, you have to be on the bank board, you have to be on the school board, the county commission, and we all play those roles. You really have to be involved in all the activities and the other families in the community. Everybody knows everybody, and that's just how we survive. We have to pull our resources and cover all the bases.
Welcome to Western Watts, the podcast where Tri-State and our cooperative members explore what it takes to power the West. From reliability to wildfire mitigation, we dive into the energy issues that matter most to rural, agricultural, and mountain communities across Colorado, Nebraska, New Mexico, and Wyoming. Welcome back to Western Watts. I'm Elizabeth Schilling with Tri-State.
And Julia Perry with Tri-State as well.
And we have the pleasure today of talking with Mr. Tim Rabon. Thanks for joining us today. Tim is our chairman on the Tri-State board and has a real unique view.
And has the best boots.
It's the best boots. Tim, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the invitation. My name is Tim Rabon. I'm from Alamogordo, New Mexico, which is in Otero County, southern New Mexico. And I'm a trustee for the Otero County Electric Board, and it's headquartered in Clapcroft, New Mexico.
Tell us, what do you do here for Tri-State?
Not much. So I am the current board member from Otero County Electric, southern New Mexico, and the current chairman of the board.
So tell us, where are you from?
Alamogordo, New Mexico.
Is that for all of your life, or?
Yeah, my grandmother's family on my mother's side moved to Alamogordo in 1926 from Virginia with a lumber company. My great-grandfather was sent to establish a new sawmill there. They were in the logging industry. So he moved his wife and 8 kids to Alamogordo and established a sawmill there, which was really the economic driver for the county at that time.
Now, what's Alamogordo like?
What's it like now? It's pretty much like it was back in 1926 when my great-grandfather moved there. It's a very small town, and there's really no manufacturing. Our economic driver today is Holloman Air Force Base. So we don't have a lot of growth opportunities. In all seriousness, I graduated high school there in 1978. Population was about 32,000, and the last census that came out, the population was down to about 30,000. So in Alamogordo, 60,000 in the county.
What's the draw that's kept your family there for so long?
That's a good question. Most of the family still lives there. We're in the ranching business and in the construction business, and just never left. I don't just been there 100 years. Family's been there 100 years and like it there, and just never had a desire to move anywhere.
Now, you've got pretty deep roots. It just seems like you keep digging them deeper, probably.
Yeah, well, we're the second largest by land size county and state in New Mexico, but we only have about 60,000 population there, so it's very small in population size. And we're related to about half of them, so some form or fashion. After 100 years, got pretty deep roots, and we're involved in a lot of community activities and county activities, and pretty nice place to live. We enjoy it there.
And birthday parties must be nuts if half the town's going to turn up, right?
It's busy. Yeah.
Well, when we talk about serving electricity, a lot of times we'll talk about the people at the end of the line. You have kind of a unique connection to that phrase. Tell us more about that.
My wife and I, Debbie, we are that member at the end of the line, literally. And so the line, that's what I tell people, doesn't go by our house, it comes to our house. So we are absolutely at the end of the line. Our business is back up the line a little bit, so I live within about a half a mile of our headquarters where our construction business is. It's on the co-op line also. All of our ranch facilities are on the co-op line as well, but we have a very good appreciation for those people living out in rural America and live at the end of the line, how important it is to keep power on.
So how did you get here? What got you into electricity and specifically cooperatives?
I got on the co-op board in 2010. My brother had actually been on the board before that, and he got involved in it. He was encouraged to get involved in it. He partners with my two older brothers in our ranch and our developments, everything we do. And the older brother is the one that kind of took care of the business operations, the office. And he was encouraged to get on the board because of our requirement of electricity. We're a big consumer of it with our aggregate production facilities. So we have a large open pit mine where we mine sand and gravel, crushers, screening equipment. We produce ready-mix concrete, hot mix asphalt. So we're a large consumer of electricity, and we're on the co-op line. And so they encouraged him to run for the board, and he did that in 2000, and he became the chairman of a bank down there and decided he needed to get off co-op and encouraged me to run for his seat. So I did, got on there in 2010, and have remained there ever since because of how critically important electricity is to our business. Our business and our family are residential as well. So our residents are on the co-op. Our business is all influenced and regulated by the co-op, and so it's very important that we have a voice in that process.
I wonder if that's a rural thing, because the more board members you talk to, the more you realize they're not just on the board. They also have 3 other businesses. They're also juggling a ton of family and a ton of kids and helping everybody out. Like, it's just I don't know if that's a rural lifestyle thing, but just constantly moving, being involved, doing community stuff.
Well, I think to keep communities in rural America viable, you have to do that. So community participation is essential in the life of rural communities. You have to be on the chamber board, you have to be on the bank board, you have to be on the school board, the county commission, and we all play those roles. Fortunately, for me and my family, as I said, I'm in business with my 2 older brothers, so we kind of divide and conquer, and one of us on the school board, one's on the bank board, one's on the commission, the co-op board, and it just goes on and on. You become a sports coach, and all 3 of our wives have been tutors at the school and involved in all the school activities, and so you really have to be involved in all the community activities and the other families in the community. Everybody knows everybody, and that's just how we survive. We have to pull our resources and cover all the bases.
Yeah, it sounds like it's not an accident then. All of these rural board members were already doing all of this other stuff anyway. Why not add board member to it?
Yeah. Yeah, and the co-op board is one of the more important ones in our area. The rural telephone cooperative board has really become in recent years equally as important. Now that the reliance on broadband is, if you don't have access to high-speed internet, broadband, you just can't hardly survive in today's world. And so for electricity, that was the case back in the 1930s that brought the Rural Electrification Act to bear. Well, now it's the broadband. We're working on getting broadband out to rural America so that they can keep up with the urban setting.
It's all an investment in the future of your communities, what the potential is going to be.
Yeah, and it's actually been a contributor to our growth in population because with COVID, people started working from home. And as we got broadband deployed, well, they were able to actually move to a rural setting because they had access to high-speed internet so they could do their job. And so that's probably been the key contributor to any growth we've seen in the last 5 or 6 years for sure.
Yeah, it really goes to show that the ethics and morals of cooperatives have still kind of stayed exactly the same. They came together originally because of the lack of availability of electricity, which modernized their entire life. And then internet is just round 2, and you're doing it in the exact same way, getting it to people that otherwise might not even gotten good service or extremely expensive service.
Well, my personal experience with it occurred when my children moved off to college. So when they got to the university, everything was on a laptop and that they used to do all of their studies and provide all their coursework on. And when they'd come home, they couldn't do it. So basically they quit coming home because they couldn't do their work because we didn't have at that time, and this was only maybe 10 years ago, we didn't have access to high enough speed internet for them to do their coursework on, so they quit coming home.
It's grandkid retention insurance, essentially.
Yeah.
You seem to really gravitate towards like hard physical work, construction, ranching, underground utilities. Is that a big part of your personality and work ethic?
So when we were growing up, there was 4 of us kids in the family, my mom and dad. My dad was a World War II veteran. He was a Marine in World War II, served in the Pacific, and he's from North Carolina. Somehow wound up back in Alamogordo, married my mom, had 4 kids, and he died of a heart attack in 1970. So I was 9 years old at the time. But basically, and it was hard times then, left my mom with 4 kids and a mortgage, and that was about all they had. So we didn't have much when we were growing up, but we didn't need much either. But in order for us to have anything, you had to go to work. And so I actually filed my first tax return in 1974. So I'd been 14 years old and had earned enough income working residential housing construction to have to file a tax return. And have filed one every year since. So haven't known much other than work, but I absolutely love it. I hope I never become impaired to where I can't work. I'm not sure what I would do if I got to that point.
So between your principles, your work ethic, what you've learned from running businesses, are there elements of that you apply to your role as the chairman of the board these days?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's what helps me qualify to be able to fill the position. I don't know how good I am at it, but I have learned along the way. The biggest thing is how to be fair with people, how to be compassionate with other people. We're all different. We all think different. We all have our view of the world. Doesn't make me right and you wrong, you right and me wrong. It just, in a lot of cases, just makes us different, and we have to be able to accept that and figure out how to get along with each other. And learned a lot of that. It was kind of 2 parts for me in business. Being in business with my family, it's very difficult to navigate a business relationship with siblings, as you can only imagine. And so I've had to learn a lot of hard lessons along the way and learned them and not repeated them. And now I can apply them. And I think the main thing is how to be fair and compassionate with other people, especially people that I disagree with or may disagree with me, and understand that they have a position that's equally as important as mine.
Especially you have board members who might be acting like siblings, just trying to get along on the table.
Which is fun. That's what makes it fun. You feel like you accomplish something when you have a disagreement and resolve it. And dispute resolution, I guess, is one of the components of being successful. If you can resolve disputes and move forward and still be partners or friends or family members, then you're successful.
Well, I think we've gotten to see you do that too, just that spirit of taking the time to listen, or even having, subcommittees get together, talk about an issue that needs a little more depth. But having that time for people's voices to be heard seems huge.
Yeah, and in my time here at Tri-State, I've been here since 2014. A lot of what we've done is fallen into that trap of we do it this way because we've always done it this way, and that's not the right reason to do things a certain way. So we've tried to go through the entire board. There's a clear separation between staff management and board management, and Dwayne is responsible for staff management and conduct, and the chairman is responsible for the board management and conduct. And so we've gone through all of the board policies and the board conduct, and we've reviewed them and scrubbed them from head to toe, made a lot of changes, and become, I believe, more open, more transparent, and more compassionate for the entire membership. Doesn't matter if you're the smallest member, the largest member, we're all the same.
I mean, if you're able to get 40-something people to find a solution that mostly works, that sounds really fair to me. People in New Mexico are genuinely going to have different needs than people in northern Wyoming. So being able to resolve problems on a wide scale across the entire membership is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it has its challenges, but I think so far we've been fairly successful. One of the things that I always keep in mind is I've got a sign in my office at home. I learned this lesson a long time ago, and that sign reads, "The greatest single problem with communication is the illusion that it has actually occurred." Bernard Shaw is the one that coined that phrase. And if you stop and think about that for a minute, it really makes sense. And so I use that also not only for my use, but I try to convey that to the other board members. Say, hey, I think you two guys are saying the same thing. You're just saying it different. And that if you'll stop and listen to one another, you'll understand that you actually have the same goal in mind. You got a roadblock there. And I think that's helped resolve a lot of the contention that we've had. Not that there's been a lot, but we have had some challenges over the last few years that I think we've successfully navigated. And a lot due to Dwayne's personality and experience as well has helped with that. So Dwayne's a great leader. He's been refreshing.
So co-ops came together to form Tri-State, knowing it's going to work better if we're uniting our forces to secure power. Why is that concept important to you?
Well, there's power in the group. And I mean, it's the basis for the co-op model anyway, whether it's a grain co-op or a fuel co-op or an electric co-op, the concept's the same. And those of us in rural America don't have access to the numbers that urban said, like here in Denver. So we're scattered and not very strong on our own. And when we'll compile our resources, it helps us be on a little more level playing field than more highly populated urban settings. And so that's what occurred with the REA back in the 1930s was all the rural residents came together and started stringing wires and electrifying people's homes.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has stayed the same too because of that not-for-profit business model, because it is rural. You have less people per line, so there's not a huge incentive for other companies to come in because there's not as much profit to be made, or prices might even have to change just because of the amount of people or businesses per line in a rural setting.
Well, and they still wouldn't be there today. The IOUs aren't coming out to rural America because the numbers don't work. And it just all comes down to quality of life. So if you want to enjoy good quality of life, you got to have electricity. Now you got to have broadband. And so you had two options. And fortunately, they came up with the concept of applying the co-op model out in rural America for electricity and broadband both. But you either move to an urban setting, which is not practical because those of us in rural America are growing all the grain and beef, and we're supplying the food to America and a lot of the rest of the world, and we're doing it out in rural America. We can't do it in downtown Denver. That's just a fact of life.
For people that might be unfamiliar, do you just want to explain what the REA is?
The REA is the Rural Electrification Act, and it was Roosevelt signed in 1936, and it was an act where the government provides through RUS, the Rural Utility Service. They provide low-interest loans to co-ops to electrify rural America. And they did it through the establishment of co-ops in those areas. They had criteria. RUS actually provided the language for bylaws. That's what establishes our size of our board and what our districts look like. We all had contracts with RUS where they loaned us the money so we could buy the poles and wires and hire people to electrify rural America.
It was like the wild, wild west, but of electricity back in
Yeah.
the 30s.
Yeah, and the IOUs, independently owned utilities, P&M or XL, those type of companies were for-profit businesses, and so they had to have a return on investment, and they could get that in urban settings, New York City, the bigger communities. They could electrify them, or they may have, 100 or 200 meters per mile, and those of us out in rural America have 3 or 4 meters a mile, maybe 7 meters a mile. And so there's no way to make a return on your investment in that setting. And so the IOUs were not going to go there. They still won't go there today because there's just not an opportunity for them to make a return on their investment.
Can we take a little personal turn? So you have a pretty full plate, failing at retirement, you still have a pretty full plate. How do you keep up your energy? How do you take care of yourself to be able to do all the things that you do?
I've got a good wife that takes care of me. I would give her most of that credit. She cooks really good. She got a lot of food allergies, so she's real big on organic food and what I eat and what I don't eat. So I get to cheat when I come here to Denver. And I don't know, I've just worked my entire life. I love to work. I'm scared to death of not being able to work. And I'm also afraid if I ever stop, I'll get run over, and I either get run over or not be able to start again. So I don't know, maybe I'm just afraid of stopping.
So you don't have to worry about movement or an exercise routine. You're just moving constantly by the nature of your life.
People ask me that, what do you do for exercise? I work. I don't do push-ups and lift weights and that kind of stuff. I work all day long, and I love doing it. And it provides me all the exercise I need to stay in shape. So far, thankfully, I've been blessed with good health and been nervous about that most of my life because my dad died of a heart attack when I was 9. He was 42 years old, and his dad died at 36 of influenza. So I've been thinking most of my life, well, I'm not going to live very long, so I better live it to the fullest. And I turned 65 here in 2 months and got good health and got a wife that takes good care of me, and it all works as to this point.
Right? You're doing a lot of
Must
things
be
right.
that organic food.
Yes.
What's your favorite meal that she makes?
Gosh, that's hard to just pin it down to one, but I would have to say enchiladas. Enchiladas and kale soup, it's a toss-up on that. It's the best stuff you've ever had in your life.
Do you guys have a garden at all?
Yes. So we have chickens, and we've pared back our garden substantially. We'd always had a garden when I was a kid. We had a garden in the backyard and grew a lot of our own vegetables, and came home, and Debbie and I put in a big garden and got chickens and started learning how to sustain ourselves, how to grow our own food. And while we had kids there that could work the garden, we had a pretty sizable one, but since the kids are all gone, we pared it back. But we still do grow some of our own vegetables, and Debbie's got a flock of chickens that she tends to down there, and we raise cattle. We keep our own steers, feed them out. And so that was an eye-opener to me, just how fragile life is if you're not able to go to the grocery store and buy whatever you want to eat.
You've worked with your family. You speak very highly of your wife. Tell us in general just what family means to you.
It means everything. I mean, that's why we're here, right? That's why God put us here. Family is extremely critical. I'm fortunate enough, blessed enough to have 3 boys, and they're all back home in Alamogordo now, and they all have kids. And so we get to have family gatherings with them multiple times a week and watch grandbabies all the time. And the only reason for my business success was because I was able to work with my 2 older brothers and build a business and operate it and be successful at it. And couldn't have done that on my own. And at the end of the day, for me, without the family, nothing else really matters. That's what I'm here for, and we enjoy one another and vacation together, and that's what life's all about, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you got to keep up 50% of the population of Alamogordo, right? So you got to keep the kids coming.
Yeah. So it's extremely important. Family is.
Well, it feels like that spirit of cooperation just on that personal small scale within your family, and then that concept taken more broadly to the work you do at Tri-State and among Otero. We had a question on here that was, what do you like to do for fun? But we know the answer is work. You like to do work for
It's pretty boring, I know, but that's what I enjoy. And the work I like to do is stuff that I can turn around at the end of the day and say, hey, I built that. Look what I did. And that in business was always a challenge for me. And that's why it was good. My older brother was there and was happy to do the actual in-office business portion of it. The other brother and I did all the field work. So we constructed all the plants and did all the construction work. And I love to get to the end of the day and be able to look back and see what I accomplished. And so Debbie and I built our house. Debbie and the boys and I, when they were young, we built our own house, and that's kind of the stuff we do for fun, is work on things, build things, and taught my kids how to work on their vehicles and how to do their own plumbing and work around their house. And outside of that, for fun, I like to hunt and shoot. I'm a long-range shooter. I like to reload ammunition, and hunting and shooting is probably about the only thing really outside of work that I enjoy doing.
What I learned is that you lied about retiring. It's just a facade, and you're probably just going to casually start up a mechanic shop or something in your free time.
Yeah, retirement sounded good, but can't figure out how to get it done. Yeah, too much energy, I guess. It's that sense of accomplishment. You just have to feel like you're helping somebody, doing something for somebody. I just hope I never become impaired to where I can't do things. That scares me.
I think we hope that for you too. What's one piece of advice you've received, either good or not as good, that you would want to share?
A couple of philosophies, I guess. Say you can, say you can't, either way you're right. That's one that I like to live by. Bible verse, to whom much is given, much is required. We feel blessed. I felt as blessed at 7 or 8, 9 years old as I do today, So it's all relative to your situation, but we've always had that belief that we've been given a bunch and we've got to give back a bunch. So I think that's why our community engagement, and even my time here on Tri-State and all this, I commit a lot of time here to Tri-State because I've been given a lot also. The people that were here before me made my life possible, and so I'm going to do what I can to make the people coming after me's life good as well.
Sounds like you've made a choice, and your perspective is to come from that angle of gratitude and appreciation, and it plays out in everything you're
doing. Of your many hobbies and activities and side work, how did you get into distilling whiskey?
Well, I've got a couple friends down there that have distilleries. So I got started in it during COVID, got a little bored because we had to stay home. And so I told Debbie, well, I'm going to try and make some beer because my dad did that when I was a kid. I can remember him making beer. And so she bought it for me for my birthday, a little beer making kit. So we made some beer and it turned out pretty good, but it just sparked an interest in me in how in the world are you taking grain that's just starch with a shell around it and turning it into something you can drink. I'm one of those people that has to understand how things work, and that one eluded me. So I started studying. The beer was fairly easy because it came in a kit, but then turned to whiskey and thought, well, I'm going to try to figure out how you do that. And it's quite an interesting concept. But for me, it was just fun to learn how the process has evolved over centuries and understand how it works. And then the byproduct's not all bad either.
What's the most surprising thing someone's farming or growing or product down in Otero?
Probably the pomegranate farm. I mean, like you say, you wouldn't think they would grow down there, but they do. With the lack of water that we have down there and the climate, there are just very few things that do grow. But in southern New Mexico, pecans do better there than just about anywhere. Texas is a huge producer of pecans, and I think Georgia is the next one in line. But New Mexico pretty regularly is the top producer of pecans in the United States. And you wouldn't think that.
I want pie.
Oh, yeah. I stopped at Buc-ee's for the first time on the way home from Fort Collins the other day. They had those. I love the candied pecans. They have them like on a little roaster over there. So good.
Yeah, my wife makes those.
What doesn't your wife do? I think the list of what she can't do would be shorter, honestly.
Yeah, no, yeah, she's quite the individual.
So thinking about different ways you can approach business, the cooperative model is a unique one. Can you tell us a little bit more about how are decisions made in a member-owned cooperative?
So at the local home co-op, all of the members, if you have a meter on our co-op, you're an owner of the co-op. You're not a customer, you're a member. And when the co-ops joined forces and established Tri-State, which is a co-op of co-ops, all of the individual co-ops elected their representative. And that's one of the things I've tried to instill here over the last 4 years of my term of chairman is that we're not directors, we're owner representatives. So to try to help change that mindset from just being a customer to being recognized as an owner. So Tri-State is owned by individual co-ops, and those co-ops elect a representative to come here to Tri-State and represent their individual positions. It's part of the challenge of the co-op board here, the size of it, but everybody has basically the same goal in mind. We need safe, reliable, responsible, affordable power. Those are the pillars that make up what our goal is. And we come here, majority rules, vote, take action on items that are important to the organization. And with NRECA, the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association, is another group that formed. That association was built by the co-ops to provide training. That was their main purpose, was to provide training to directors just like me on how I'm supposed to conduct myself as a co-op director, owner representative. And because the industry's ever evolving, changing all the time, and so to stay current with that, you have to continue to go to training year over year, and NRECA is the one that provides that. So it's a lot of continued education in order to stay current with the rules and regulations and the desires of a co-op director.
Why did you want to be on Tri-State's board versus just Otero's board?
I was encouraged by my local board chairman to fill this role. I think he recognized my organizational skills and just the ability that I have as a long-time business owner. He recognized that I may have some qualities that would benefit the Tri-State family, and so he encouraged me to run for this role. But for me, it's been kind of difficult to fill, and I think most co-ops are facing this issue. Means a lot of time away from home. It's 562 miles from my house to here, so it's an 8.5-hour drive for me. And I have to drive for a day and then attend meetings for 2 or 3 days, drive for a day back. And I'm not the furthest away director, so I'm close, but not quite. So the commitment to come here and be on this board is a big one. But I was at a point, fortunately, at that time of my life that I had the time to commit and decided, okay, I'll go give it a shot.
So thinking about the reason cooperatives form, obviously it's because there's some strength in doing things together. It doesn't mean everything's going to stay the same. Things are evolving, members are evolving, and Tri-State is evolving to meet that need. What do you see as that future for Tri-State that sets us up for success to keep meeting members' needs?
That industry started to change with renewable energy finally getting legs under it. And so the future looks very good for the cooperatives. Even though we're going through a transition, the need for co-ops is every bit as great, if not more, today than it was in the 1930s. We still have to have access to electricity. out in rural America. Tri-State has evolved to become more transparent, more flexible, more engaging. We have the ERP, which kind of is the roadmap for our future capacity, because capacity is everything in this business. Once we get electricity, we got to make sure we can keep it on 24/7. And normally when that's a problem is when there's a severe weather event, whether it's a heat wave or an Arctic blast. That's when the system's tested. We have proven that we're going to be able to sustain that capacity well into the future. Tri-State is positioned very well to not be impacted by what we believe is coming over the next 5 or 6 years with a shortage of capacity. You can't build capacity as fast as it's being consumed right now. Tri-State has all the capacity it needs to supply its demand well into the future. So continuing to work together, stay together, and at the end of it, we're going to be better off as a result of remaining in the family.
So every Tri-State member has a seat on the Tri-State board. Why is that important?
Well, it's important because we all come from diverse areas. And so we're scattered over 4 states, Nebraska, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico. And the needs of Otero County Electric down in southern New Mexico are likely to differ a little from the needs of someone in Grant, Nebraska. And so it's important that the members can all come together, debate the merits of our individual needs and what actually works in the best interest of the whole group, and we'll come to a consensus on that. So that's why it's important that one member, one vote, so that we maintain some balance and harmony among members scattered over 4 states. We have probably the largest geographic territory of any generation and transmission organization in the United States.
That diversity really is what makes the cooperative business model so successful. Thank you for your part in that process. Thanks for tuning in to Western Watts. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, or on our website at tristate.coop/WWPod. We'll catch you next time.